This is Rummy's Corner.
Who are the top 10 heavyweights today? Since I last updated my heavyweight top 10, there has only been one major fight in the division. That, of course, being when Daniel Dubois scored the big-time upset against Anthony Joshua on September 21st. The number 10 spot remains the trickiest one to rate. Ring Magazine has Huni there, but I personally feel that's a bit premature. Had Jarrell Miller gotten the nod in his draw against Andy Ruiz Jr., as I believe he probably deserved, I'd have been tempted to put him here. But at number 10, I still have Derek Chisora, mainly because when you consider everyone else who is right on the cusp, Chisora is the most deserving following his inspiring victory against the Juggernaut, who was still widely recognized as a top 10 heavyweight at that time. Chisora feels like a bit of a placeholder here, as it seemed he used almost everything he had to win against Joyce. But then again, if a rumored third fight with White comes together, or a possible fight with another named guy like Deontay Wilder, should Chisora win a matchup like that, it's conceivable he could actually move up. But for now, I believe Chisora is most deserving. Even if I view him as a placeholder, I don't expect to be here very long. Number 9 is Filip Hergovich. He's a tricky one to rate right now. Hergovich lost his most recent fight against Dubois, and that was a devastating setback considering Hergovich was the IBF mandatory going into that one, where he was a highly regarded undefeated contender. Hergovich's big claim to fame is his somewhat controversial decision win against Big Bang Jong over 2 years ago, where Jong is the one who's been on a pretty strong run following that fight. Hergovich has talent, but aside from the Jong win, there is simply not a whole lot there. I do believe, however, that his loss against Dubois looks a bit better in hindsight, given the demolition job Dubois just did on AJ. Number 8 is Martin Boli. He is coming off the terrific victory against Jared Anderson, and going into that one, Anderson was widely viewed as the future of American heavyweight boxing. But Boli put on a damn fine display of power, accuracy, deceptive hand speed, and tremendous ring smarts, and he beat Anderson in dramatic and impressive fashion. If Anderson represented the most promising American heavyweight, then the future of American heavyweight boxing has perhaps reached a low point, where indeed, not a single American boxer is featured here inside my top 10. But Anderson did show some heart, toughness, and determination in the loss, making Boli's victory even more remarkable. For Boli, that is 10 victories in a row since suffering his only career loss against Michael Hunter. Number 7 is Geoffrey Cabel. His career has finally gotten some momentum after he won back-to-back fights against fellow then undefeated heavyweights Arslanbek Makhmudov and Frank Sanchez, where the victory against Sanchez was held in very high regard, with many viewing Sanchez as a top 10 heavyweight going into that one. Cabel is another tricky one to rate, however, because his two notable victories themselves have come against guys who were not especially proven, with more high-level heavyweights squaring off, in large part thanks to the efforts of Turki Al-Sheikh. Cabel has gotten opportunities that helped elevate his standing, with more opportunities to come. Cabel also holds a victory against Chisora, that one being more than 7 years ago now. Cabel dropped one spot here for me, on the strength of Dubois moving up. Number 6 is Anthony Joshua, and he dropped 3 spots for me, although I think you could perhaps make a case for him as high as number 4. AJ is coming off of the devastating loss against Dubois, where he was dominated from start to finish. AJ has only won 4 of his last 7, but in fairness, 2 of those losses were against the reigning heavyweight king, and then Dubois scored the impressive upset knockout. There is no shame in losing to those guys, and to be sure, I still believe there are a lot of top 10 guys that AJ could potentially beat. But the manner of his loss against Dubois works against him. And at the end of the day, Joshua is just 6-4 in his last 10 fights. AJ could potentially bounce back, but he is clearly trending downward. Number 5 is Big Bang Jong. Jong is 3-2 in his last 5 fights, but all of those fights came against guys who were all ranked inside the top 10. Jong suffered the competitive loss against Hergovich in a bout many believed he deserved to win. Then he won the 2 fights against the juggernaut who was undefeated and very highly regarded. He suffered the majority decision loss against Parker, and then he scored the spectacular knockout against Deontay Wilder, which bumped Wilder out of my top 10. But all of those fights were against highly ranked heavyweights, and Jong was very competitive in the loss against Hergovich, and he dropped Parker twice in the losing effort. Jong is old and has stamina issues, but he's been making the most of his opportunities. Number 4 is Joseph Parker. Parker has a few losses in his career, and Parker of course lost against Joshua previously, but that was a long time ago now, all the way back in March 2018. His most recent fights against guys who were generally rated in the top 5. He scored the dominant win against Wilder, and then he followed that up with a terrific victory against Jong. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that AJ couldn't have beaten those guys, or that Parker would have won against the guys who beat AJ, but Parker's back-to-back wins against top 5 heavyweights trump AJ going 6-4 in his last 10, regardless of the fact he beat Parker more than 6 years back. Incidentally, I'd love to see an AJ Parker rematch, as I believe it could tell us a lot about where they both really stand. Number 3 is Daniel Dubois. Dynamite Dubois moves up 4 spots here for me following his incredible victory against AJ, who I had ranked number 3 going into that one. You could perhaps make the case that Parker is more deserving of the 3 spot, but it boils down to the manner of victory for me. To be sure, Parker made a huge statement when he beat Wilder, but I believe Dubois made an even huger statement with the way he completely overwhelmed Joshua. Dubois is the reigning IBF heavyweight champion, and ideally, I'd love to see him face the winner of the rematch between the 2 guys I have ranked above him. But there are a lot of interesting matchups to be made for the only heavyweight in my top 10 under the age of 30. Number 2 is Tyson Fury. To date, Fury has just the 1 loss in his professional career, and that loss came in his previous fight against Usyk. Fury lost against Usyk, but Fury did manage to have more success against Usyk than any heavyweight before him, and Fury will get his chance at redemption when he has his rematch against Usyk on December 21st. And number 1, of course, is the one and only Oleksandr Usyk, the reigning king of the heavyweight division. There is no question whatsoever that Usyk is the top guy in the division. Usyk is the undefeated reigning WBA, WBO, WBC, and lineal world heavyweight champion. And the only reason he is no longer undisputed is because he vacated the IBF after being strong-armed by the organization. Part of the irony of Dubois being the reigning IBF champion, and AJ challenging him for that belt, is the fact Usyk already knocked out Dubois, and he already beat AJ twice. Beyond that, Usyk also holds a victory against Chisora, who amazingly is now inside my top 10. So according to my list of top 10 heavyweights, Usyk has a record of 5-0 against 4 of the remaining top 9, which is even more impressive when you consider Usyk has only had 6 fights at heavyweight since moving up from cruiserweight. Heavyweight boxing has been having a good year, and I genuinely do believe that Turkey deserves a huge chunk of credit for putting a lot of interesting heavyweight fights together, and there is more around the corner, with the highly anticipated rematch between Usyk and Fury coming up on December 21st. That one will be broadcast live on DAZN. For anyone out there who is not subscribed to DAZN, I have left a link in the description where you can sign up. So here is my final top 10 heavyweight list for October 2024. As always, you can certainly argue about some of the ordering here, and there are other guys you can maybe make a strong case for over Chisora at the 10 spot, but I think these are the heavyweights that best represent a current top 10. I think there are a lot of guys just outside the top 10 who are just a big win away from perhaps cracking the top 10. And I sure hope we get to see more and more fights where the top heavyweights prove themselves by consistently facing other top heavyweights. So what do you think of my top 10? Please share your thoughts in the comments section. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed and have a wonderful night. This is Rummy's Corner.